Hey everyone, Michelle Sadling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. Today we'll explore how finding your passion and purpose helps to build healthy habits. Here to help us do that is Laura Rubin, known as the Midlife Navigator. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and others. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to be informed as new episodes become available. If you enjoyed today's podcast or any of our episodes, please be sure to rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. Also, be sure to check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some resources as you begin your health journey. Laura Rubin, welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, well, we are so happy to have you here as the Midlife Navigator. So I can't wait to find out what that means and how that involves passion and purpose, which is your forte, and building healthy habits. But first, will you take a minute to introduce yourself and what brought you to this point in your life and in your career?
You bet. You bet. So yes, I am the Midlife Navigator. And what I do is I guide women in midlife to navigate through the feeling of not knowing who they are, not knowing what matters to them, and bringing them back to themselves and taking back their life and living life on purpose and their purpose and on their terms. And I found myself in this same situation. I had ticked off all the boxes: college, career, marriage, children, all of the things that society says you need to have a perfect life. And I was, from all intents and purposes, living the perfect life, but something was missing. I just felt like there was more. Like I said, I ticked off all the boxes, was kind of living on autopilot, and really didn't know who I was and what mattered to me. And so I went on this journey to discover what that was. And I kind of came back to myself, started looking at what is it that makes me tick? What is it that I really get pleasure from and I really enjoy? What is it that I want to share with the world? What is it about, what do I have what is the gift that I have that I can share with the world? And in the process of going through this journey, I realized that there were other women that felt exactly like I did. I wasn't out there by myself. I wasn't in this island all by myself. And that there were other women in midlife that felt exactly the same. Because I have to say, from the outside looking in, you would think I had the perfect life. Why do I feel like something's missing? And you almost feel guilty. It's like, okay, there are people that would love to be doing what I'm doing or have the life that I have. And so it was nice to know that there were other women that were feeling the same way. And yet we all were on this journey, not really knowing where to go, how to start, and how to really solve this problem. And so in all my research and my time from going through this, I realized that I could share, and I wanted to share with other women and lift them up to get to a point where they felt fulfilled, had a purpose, were passionate about their life. And so that's where the Midlife Navigator came into play. I was navigating my midlife, and now I help other women navigate theirs as well.
Oh, that is fantastic. I love that. So did that start out as just your own personal journey and then
Yes,
broaden?
definitely, because I just felt like I felt like something was missing, and I started doing the research. And yes, it was all about, I wanted more for myself. And then, like I said, realizing that other women felt the same way, and realizing that I was getting so excited about what I was learning, and I wanted to share that. And I would share these aha moments with these women, and they would have aha moments. And that really lit me up. I felt like I was making a difference for other women.
That's it's very interesting because that's often, I mean, you hear the term midlife crisis or midlife, fill in the blank, I suppose.
Mhm.
So why is that? You can, I'm sure relate from your own experience and what you've learned from other women, but why is that such a confusing time? Why is midlife, why does it have to be a crisis, I guess?
So first of all, I like to call it an awakening, not a crisis. Although the definition of crisis is an event that causes change. So you could call midlife crisis. That could be an accurate description. Only society has made it negative. So I like to call it a midlife awakening. And I believe, at least for me personally, it was because I had lived my life for everyone else. I had checked off those boxes, as I mentioned, because I thought that's what society had taught us, that that's what was modeled for us. And so along the way, I lost myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my values were. I didn't know, it was all about pleasing others and taking care of others and not necessarily taking care of myself and knowing who I was. And I feel like once we hit midlife, the journey that we've gone on has taught us so much about ourselves. And when we hit midlife, things start changing. We can be empty nesters. We may lose our job. We may even, so some women have gone through divorces. Our lives change, and what we used as a label or we used as that anchor of who we are goes away, and we realize we don't know who we are. We don't know what's important to us. And so this is our chance to take that wisdom and take what we've learned and really dive deep into our, inner selves and our inner beings and figure out what's important to us, who we want to be, what we want to say yes to, what we want to say no to.
I love that. Wow. So it's more as you're going through life checking off the boxes. So that identity becomes your own, and then you kind of lose your own identity, so to speak.
Correct. Correct. It's like, okay, this is the story that I have created up until now, but it's almost like you're living society's story, or you're living someone else's story, not really the story that's true to you.
Okay. And then something's missing in there. You're
Yes.
living and you're having joy, you're having great experiences, but it's not necessarily
It,
all of those experiences.
it's not enough. You just get this sense that there's more. And you don't know what that more is. At least I did not know what that more was. And in my exploration, I realized my more was I wanted to help other women realize what their more was as well in this time in their lives.
Okay. So now your focus is finding your passion, finding your purpose. So what role do those play in building healthy habits? Whether you're trying to eat healthier, exercise more, whether you're making a career change, you're trying to, have a healthy environment, other aspects. What's the correlation, I suppose, between the two?
So for me, what I'll use the term self-care. I think that self-care, which includes the healthy habits, the eating well, the movement, the setting proper boundaries, working in environments that nourish us and are not toxic to us. That is the foundation for figuring out who we are and developing that passion and developing that purpose. It takes us back to I would say, like I said, it takes us back to the foundation, it takes us back to our roots, and helps open up that energy and a platform for us to build on in order to discover what our passion is, discover what our purpose is. But we start by taking care of ourselves. We start by putting ourselves first. And as that basis, then we build and we can reach out. We have this confidence and this, knowing who we are and taking that along with those healthy habits and building a life around those.
So there's a little bit of reciprocity between those two, healthy
Correct.
habits versus passion.
Yes. Yes. I
Okay.
think they both, you have to be taking care of yourself, and you have to be putting yourself first and having that healthy lifestyle in order to build on that and find the passion. And when you're passionate and you have that purpose, you want to take care of yourself as well. You're excited about life. You want to do the things that are good for you, that nourish you, that keep you alive and keep you excited. And self-care and that healthy mindsets, healthy lifestyle is the basis for all of that.
Okay. So that beckons the question, where does it start? It seems like a chicken and the egg sort of situation, perhaps, but where do you start? How do you discover that purpose and then, kind of link it with the healthy habits?
I like to start with the healthy habits and getting people to really understand who they are, what's important to them, and in doing so, taking care of themselves along the way with the habits, with the eating well, with the movement. And what that does is move the energy. It opens up their energy and where they're coming from to start exploring their purpose and their passion. And then once we've discovered the passion and the purpose, we already have those healthy habits in place, and it just feeds them. We're able to even improve our lives as we continue to take care of ourselves. And we've now got this purpose, and we're out giving to the world. And as a result, when we give to the world, we need to give back to ourselves as well. So we get in that cycle. It's just a cycle that we take care of ourselves, we do our purpose, we take care of the outside world, we take care of ourselves. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves and we haven't filled ourselves up, we can't reach out and help others either.
Good point. Absolutely. So it's more of a kind of a, you're almost going on a journey to kind of
Mhm.
discover healthy habits or discover your passions.
Yes, it is definitely a journey, and it's always a journey. I don't think we ever ultimately get there. It's, because as we age, as we move through life, there's detours, there are things that get in the way, and we take that detour, then we come back, and it's really important to have that overall vision to follow. And part of that vision is when we get on that detour, if we have the foundation of self-care and we have the foundation of being healthy and living a healthy life, the detour doesn't derail us as much, and then we get back to that vision and we keep moving forward. It's a constant movement, constant forward, and we're constantly taking care of ourselves. And what needs to happen, or what we've decided, is our movement at this point, what we want to do with our bodies or what we want to feed ourselves at this point, can change in 5 years, in 10 years. It's a constant journey as to what works for us. And when we have really gotten to the point where we understand who we are and what's important, we tune into that and we key into those changes and know how to adjust as we go along in the journey.
Interesting. So that kind of leads up to a question too, is, before midlife, are we are we still on some kind of journey, or does really the journey happen in midlife?
I think we're definitely on a journey before midlife. It's just a slightly different journey. In our 20s, it's about career and our job. In our 30s, if we've gotten married or we have a family, it's about our relationships and our family. And then we hit our 40s, and then that's when we start thinking about, okay, what else is there? It just kind of starts in our 40s, thinking about, like, okay, we've got the career, we've got the house, we've got the great family. Now what else? What's next? And then we start thinking about, maybe there's something for us in this. So everything up until midlife is a learning ground. It's the wisdom that we're gaining. And every situation, every story that we tell is gaining wisdom, is teaching us things, and we take all of that knowledge and wisdom and build a midlife that we want, that's on our terms, that we want to live.
Okay. So just kind of, I guess, learning from past experience to kind of
Yes.
move forward a little bit.
Exactly, exactly. And each one of those phases is important. They all provide great information to us, provide us with a great life. We have to go through each one of those phases in our life, and then we just build on the last one and build on the last one. And in midlife, we come to a point where we're able to see the big picture. We're able to look at ourselves, and we're not so much reaching to we're not looking to the outer things to please us or that we have to do. Now we're willing to step back, rest, reflect, and receive what it is we need for ourselves.
Okay. I love that your emphasis on reflection and just kind
Mm-hmm.
of seeing what has worked in the past or maybe not worked so well that we want to
Exactly.
change and develop. It's super important.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So could you share some stories, either people, your own experiences, or people with whom you've worked, where they've kind of found their passion, and how that reciprocity happened between healthy habits and the purpose and the vision?
So what I have found is I had a client who had a very good health practice. She took care of herself. She was very active, and then work took over. She stopped taking care of herself. She stopped putting that piece of, made it of importance to her. And she lost her mojo, so to speak. She was unhappy in her job. It wasn't fulfilling to her anymore. She really didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up. And so she and I started working together. And one of the first things that we worked on was taking her back to her self-care routine and the things that worked so well for her. And as she started doing that, it was like the positive energy started flowing. And it was like she just started feeling better about life because she started feeling better about herself, and she physically started feeling better, which then again mentally made her feel better. And then she could come to the table and look at her career situation in a more positive, open light. And we started working on, okay, in this situation that you're in, because she wasn't going to quit her job. She had a very good job. How do we make that so that it's positive for you? And so the more positive her work life became, the more she enjoyed going home and taking care of herself, because she didn't go home deflated. She didn't go home stressed or anxious. And so it just kind of kept herself going. And when she would fall back into not feeling good, to being not necessarily depressed, but just unhappy, my first question to her is, are you taking care of yourself? Are you still running? Are you eating healthy? And the first answer was no. She had let that go by the wayside. So we pick it back up again, and I could just watch her mindset and her attitude just change. And she became more growth mindset oriented. What's the opportunity in this? How do I make this better? And by taking care of yourself and realizing, just starting feeling better and realizing the connection between you have control of what you eat and the movement that you make and how it makes you feel better, gives you that control to use that growth in other situations as well.
Okay. Now you mentioned, she had, let her self-care kind of go by the wayside. In your experience, why is that? Why does self-care kind of take a back seat to her career in this case, or to other things in others' experiences?
So, and I will speak for myself as well. When I feel like there are deadlines looming, or I have a lot of work to do, or I'm just anxious about my work, that'll be the first thing that I do in the morning, as opposed to, maybe meditating, working out, that kind of thing. And then I get engrossed in my work. She would get engrossed in her work, and we're not cooking healthy meals. We're grabbing things on the go. It's almost like the work situation becomes so stressful and anxiety ridden that you're just trying to resolve that and get through that. So you just let everything go, and that's where all your focus goes, forgetting that if you go back to the self-care and take care of yourself, the stress and the anxiousness will dissipate, and you can move through the issues that you are having at work.
Okay, so
Or home, or wherever. It doesn't necessarily have to be work related.
oh, absolutely. So they're kind of focusing on, let me just get through this
Yes.
situation, and then I can pay attention to other stuff.
Exactly. And I think
Okay.
it's a slow decline. So it may be, when she was working out 5 days a week, it dropped to 4 days, and then 3 days. And then it was like, no, I have to, I have a meeting, or this is more important. It just becomes, the other activity becomes more important in an effort to alleviate the stress and the anxiety. And like I said, it's just it's not all of a sudden you decide I'm not doing it. It's just you slowly stop doing it, and it doesn't become part of the routine, and it's not something that's present and that you're thinking about on a regular basis, because you're so consumed with getting rid of the other problem. When, if you would take the time to do the self-care and live your life in such a way, it would alleviate the anxiousness and alleviate the stress, because you're taking care of yourself.
Okay. So now, in your own experiences with your own midlife enlightenment, uh, how um, how did you resolve that, or what was that little sense of angst in yourself to your deadlines, your self care, and just how you went about thinking it through and resolving that?
It's it's ongoing. I certainly have
Sure.
not arrived. I still find where my deadlines will take over. It's all of a sudden an inner knowing that, wait a minute, I'm so anxious and I'm so stressed. What is it that you just become present to what's going on? It's like all of a sudden it's like light bulb moment. I can't do this anymore. What's missing? What have I forgotten? And you realize, oh, I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not eating well. I'm not moving. I'm not taking time to go out in nature. I'm not even setting my boundaries. Healthy habits include setting, solid boundaries where your yes is a yes and your no is a no. And I've just let all of that go by the wayside. And I think it's just all of a sudden, you just have this aha moment where you've gotten to the point where it's so stressful and you stop and you realize, again, you reflect. You realize I'll just all of a sudden stop and go, okay, what's up? Something's not right. And then I always go back to, am I taking care of myself? Am I setting appropriate boundaries? Am I scheduling my calendar in such a way that's allowing me for spaciousness so that I can reflect and I can take care of myself?
Okay. So is it a question of, maybe you're just on autopilot so much that when something happens, you don't recognize the fact that, oh, yes, I'm neglecting my self-care. You think you're just so consumed with meeting that deadline or alleviating I guess the elephant that's before you.
I would agree. You get on that autopilot and you're just focused on getting rid of the elephant in the room, as you call it, and not realizing that if you take care of yourself, the elephant in the room is going to minimize and you'll get through it, because whatever you're working through, you're going to get through one way or the other. Taking care of yourself as the base and the foundation is going to make going through that process so much better for you.
Because you're acknowledging, oh, that I've been neglecting my self-care.
Yes. And you go back to the foundation of taking care of yourself. So it's a matter of becoming present and aware of that neglect and going back to just, the practices again, setting up the habits, going back through.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you reset, whether, in your own experiences or with those with whom you work, do you feel, are they more, or are you more, I guess, resolute in keeping that as a long-term habit or long-term effect?
I definitely am more aware that I could slip again. And you become more aware of when it starts happening in the beginning, as opposed to waiting till you have to get hit over the head by something, or you have this, all of a sudden you realize you're so stressed and you just can't go on like this anymore. So it allows you to be more aware ahead of time and, change course, get back on track, whatever that looks like. So I am definitely more cognizant of when I start derailing.
Okay. So it's not as though it's never going to happen again, but you can recognize it more effectively.
Correct. And I feel like if you have the attitude that it's never going to happen again, when it does happen again, now you beat yourself up on top of going back, realize, oh, I did it again. I can't believe I did this. It's inevitable that life takes over. It's just a matter of staying present and realizing that, oh, okay, it's happening again. I'm going to go back. I don't want it, I know how to solve this. I know where I need to go back to.
Sure. Okay. And then you have the tools you need to be able to handle it, or at least
Exactly.
acknowledge it.
And the more times that you do that and you're able to quickly right the ship or change the direction, the better you get at it. And the more confident you are that, you can handle it. It's okay. Oh, I let myself get too far. I know how to fix the problem. I know that self-care is number one, and that's where I need to go back to. So you have that, like you said, you have that tool to go back to, and it works every time. And you're confident that it's going to work because you have the experience. You've done it before.
Okay. And then you're more apt to kind of be able to make adjustments as you need to.
Exactly. And I think you can look at it with more of an open mind also. Like, what is the adjustment that I need to make? Maybe this time, maybe you're still eating well, but the movement has dropped. And maybe you can't work out the way that you worked out before because of timing, or you have an injury, but you can modify that, and you know how to modify, and you're confident, and you feel, okay, maybe I can't, work out 5 days a week, but I can work 3 days a week, and that's going to feel good to me, and I'm still taking care of myself.
Okay. That's excellent. I love just kind of the inner workings, so to speak. You're kind of balancing.
Exactly. And I think that when we put the shoulds on things, then we're just adding stress. So the idea behind living healthy and having healthy habits being the groundwork is they cannot become one of the to-dos either on your list. It's a lifestyle. It's what you have, it's just who you are and part of who you are. And if we start making it a should and we start making it a to-do, then we lose the lifestyle. And then when it doesn't happen, then it just adds more stress. It's more of our, it adds more stress to us. So it's really about making that our lifestyle as well.
Okay. So in your enlightenment process, so is it, you mentioned, you hit all the boxes with different life events. Is that kind of more of, hey, I should be doing these things versus a lifestyle change?
You mean the checking off of the boxes?
Yes.
Yeah,
that
it
makes
was
sense.
more that it was more being on autopilot. It was more, instead of making those decisions consciously, it's just society has modeled college, career, marriage, children, nice house, picket fence. And it was just, I didn't even necessarily put a lot of thought into it. It was just, this is where we go. This is how it happens. This is the next step on the wheel of life, without, asking, do I really want to go to college? What is it that I really want to do? Those kind of questions along the way. And I just kind of just took off on life. And then I hit midlife and I'm like, okay, I got here, but how did I get here? Kind of thing.
Okay, sure. So you're doing these things that society or others tell you that you should do, and then that kind of takes away almost or at least puts on the back burner the lifestyle adjustment.
Correct. I mean, you're just moving through, and nowhere along in that did I say, how do I want my life to look like? I wanted a family, I wanted a career, I wanted all of those things, but what exactly do I want them to look like, and how do I want to get there? Those are the questions that I think if I had asked earlier along the way, when I hit midlife, where I was in life would have been more in alignment, and I wouldn't have had maybe that nagging feeling of something missing.
Okay. So is it something that is preventable?
I think it's preventable. You bet. I think,
Okay.
I wish that someone along the way had said to me, are you sure this is the direction you want to take? Have you thought about it this way? Just ask some of those questions. Or someone that had been, I often think it would be great to have a mentoring program where women in midlife mentor women in their 20s and 30s, and, can kind of act as a role model, as here are the questions you should be asking. Here are the things that maybe you want to think about, so that when you get to midlife, you are in alignment, as I mentioned. So I think that would be a wonderful program to take women in midlife who have the wisdom of life and the wisdom of their years, offering thoughts and suggestions on how to get to that point in a more positive way.
Okay. And then those earlier on can be asking themselves those questions and making those lifestyle changes.
And honestly, the questions that I asked myself, or that I ask my clients in midlife, apply to when you're 20, apply to when you're 30. It's just that in those phases, we're moving forward in a trajectory that we think we want to be on, and we aren't necessarily thinking that those are questions we need to ask ourselves.
Okay. And it just kind of takes someone external to get us to think or ask ourselves those questions.
Exactly.
Okay. Wonderful. I love that. I love just that mentorship, if you will. And that's super important.
I feel like we have a lot to offer. We definitely have, because of our life experience and our wisdom, we have so much that we can offer that can really make a difference in women younger than ourselves.
Absolutely. Now, for those who may not have had that mentorship or other experiences in their earlier years, what are some steps that people in midlife can take to really start that reciprocity, that purpose journey, habit journey, those things?
First thing is, go back to your self-care. Take care of yourself. And I do that in 3 different phases. There's physical, there's mental, and there's spiritual. So the physical side, eating healthy, moving, and moving doesn't necessarily have to mean you go to a gym. It could be you take your dog for a walk. You're out in nature, whatever that looks like, just movement of any kind. The mental side of things is setting those boundaries, looking at who's in your life, who's toxic, what situations are toxic, what can you let go of, and what do you want more of in your life? Setting those boundaries, making your yes a hell yes, making your no's a no without being apologetic, because it doesn't fit in your life. It's not good for you. And then the spiritual side for me is journaling, meditation. So I like to have all three of those pieces in some way. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be spending 2 hours a day on all of that. You fit it into your schedule, what works for you and what makes a difference in your life. And then from there, we start looking at what are our strengths? What are our skills? What are our values? How often I ask a woman, what are your core values? And they're like, well, they have an idea, but they don't know why, and they're not necessarily living their core values. So once you have your core values in place, or you have a good idea of what they are, you can direct your questions and the things that you do based on what those core values are. We take that information and we create what I call a midlife manifesto, which are statements of how you want to live or who you are at this stage in your life. And again, those statements, those affirmations, those core values all help determine how to answer the questions that come along. What are the direction that you want to take? That kind of thing. So it's just getting a base as to who you are and what matters to you.
Okay. And then from there, with the meditation, with the habit, self-care, you're able to ask those questions about your purpose, or about,
You
what
bet.
changes you need to make.
You bet. It's the next step. Figuring out, okay, I'm taking care of myself. I know what I like. I know what feels good to me. You get stronger. You start feeling better about yourself. You start gaining more confidence. Then you start taking action on things. Maybe there's something that you've always wanted to try to do, but I've never done. You start stepping out of that comfort zone just a little bit more, and you start taking risks, or you start doing things that maybe you have always wanted to do, but never took the time to do it. And we have more time as we go along, and we're able to determine what's really, what is it that I want to try that I've never tried before? And we're willing to take
Okay.
those risks.
Okay. So is that in itself, just discovering that passion and purpose, does that tend to be a struggle for some people?
Definitely. Because I think a lot of us worry about, is this it? Is this the right thing? Is this the right purpose? Is this the right passion? Or is it somewhere over here? Or we're multi-passionate and we feel like we have to pick one thing, which is not the case. If you can fit those in and do them. But the key for me, and the thing that I help my clients understand, is the journey is the fun part. The journey is the exploring and the discovering, so that you can create that life. That's the fun part. So instead of being anxious that I don't know what it is, or I haven't figured it out, or I have too many things to choose from, start taking action. Whatever that action is, little steps. If you want to be a writer, or you think writing is your thing, write every day, 15 minutes, whatever that is. Start taking small, inspired action every day. And that's going to help you figure out what's right and what works and what doesn't, what you really like and what you don't like, because you're not going to know that until you start taking small steps, till you start taking action. And it doesn't mean that you have to get from A to D all in one fell swoop. The small steps are the important part, because if you have to take a detour or you have to change direction, easily done when you're just making those small steps.
Okay. Now, on the flip side, is that journey, or that process, does it come easy for some people? Does it depend on the life experience of that person, how that process works?
I think it's a mindset. So that's the big thing too. Easy is a perception. So for some people, the digging in and really going deep may be difficult for some, because it's like, oh, that's scary. And for others, that may be exciting and they enjoy it. So they do see it as easy. So everyone's perception is a little bit different, whether something's easy or hard. I think for the people that I will say it's easier for are the ones that have an adventuresome spirit, and they're ready to take on and to explore, and they're not worried about being judged. They're not worried about the fear, the fear of judgment, things like that. They're not worried about what other people think, and they are so ready to figure out what's going to make them tick and what's going to make the second half of their life exciting for them, that they're ready to jump in. But it's really a mindset, how you look at it. You look at this as an opportunity, or do you look at this as some scary thing that you have to do, or you feel like you have to do?
Okay. And if it's scary for you, I guess that's one additional thing you have to overcome as you're going through the process.
And I would suggest and I would suggest that you don't ever do it alone, because we all have fears. We all walk around with that, oh my gosh, am I doing it right? Or, is this really the way I need to be going? So I recommend never do it alone. Find a trusted friend, a family member, a coach, if that's what works for you. Never do it alone, because there is true connection when we come together and we can talk about, and be vulnerable about where we are and what we're trying to experience and where we want to go. And we bounce ideas off of each other. And then the scary thing doesn't become so scary anymore.
Okay. And then we're kind of work through it together. You've got
Yes.
those different perspectives.
Exactly.
Okay. That is fantastic. Well, Laura, how can people get in contact with you?
The best way is you can find me on my website, lauramarierubin.com, or I have a Facebook group, the Midlife Navigator.
Okay, wonderful. We will include all of those in the show notes.
Great.
Now, as we wrap up, any last words of advice or encouragement as people try to navigate their own midlife?
I would want to encourage women to know that they are not alone, that there is nothing wrong when you hit this stage in your life and you feel like something's missing, that this is the best time to take off and to go on this journey, and really that midlife can be your best life. And we have so many years ahead of us, and just to live life on purpose.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Laura. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed it.